Hello everyone, good evening, welcome back. Alright, so when was the last time I streamed? I didn't stream yesterday, it was Wednesday, today is Thursday. Last time I streamed was Monday, okay. And I believe Monday, that was, let me check calendar, 23rd. This is where we left off. We had a good recovery already from after the ceasefire was proposed. We made a good recovery on Bitcoin. We slowed down at this first resistance, 105,000. That's where we chilled out for a moment until we broke out of the downtrend. We are now flipped into a bullish uptrend, and we are met with this current resistance around 108,000 is what it seems like. The specific resistance was due, of course, from the super trend invalidation right over here. And we seem to have slowed down around this area. We know there will be lots of liquidations right over here, 109,000 approximately. That would break us out to reach this next level, about 110,000, our previous all-time high, which has served as a good resistance from before. I think once we do approach this area, a massive breakout will immediately hit, and we'll start to test the next resistance after that, which would be technically our all-time high. I have this level drawn over here as a fib extension, and this is also coinciding with the second resistance that we've got right over there. 112,000 is what you should be looking at. So looking good so far. Currently slowing down. Yes, we did technically... Did we technically hit? Yeah, we did technically hit RSI 70, which is considered overbought. So we're kind of slowing down our progress a little bit. We could seek some reinforcement around this area, 105,000. Current price is 106,601 for Bitcoin. We're not down too much today, 0.61%. And yeah, I believe this is just natural correction because we did have a massive price movement upward. So we could drop a little bit down over here before continuing back upwards once again. They usually say, like, once you do break out of like a downtrend like this, you would usually break out of it, seek refuge, bounce off of the downtrend, and then continue once again higher. And I think this this will spike up very, very significantly. So we shall see how that plays out. This, yeah, it ended up being an unfortunate case. For me specifically, I did end up selling over here. Was expecting to buy back a little bit under 97,000 below these levels. Especially, like, you know, given the circumstances of where the war was, United States got involved. I was like, yeah, you know what? Is going to turn out to be longer than expected. But it didn't. Literally the next day a ceasefire was announced. If you don't know what I'm talking about, of course, it is that Israel-Iran war that was going on in the Middle East there. Things seem to have practically played out according to plan. There were some mentions of like them last minute attacking each other when they were supposed to just take their stuff out of each other's airspaces, their weapons, their people, right? So, you know, the ceasefire would actually take effect. And it seems like nowadays that is the case. Sometimes there are some reports of, oh, we're hearing sirens of maybe missile warnings or whatever, but realistically I haven't seen much changes or nothing significant, if that is the case, is getting destroyed or anything like that. So we could technically say, sure, the 12-day war, which is what Trump called it, has halted. It's come to an end. Trump, of course, was very furious once they kind of started violating it, but I think now they know, like, okay, you know what, we'll relax. Iran is calling it a victory for themselves. They basically said, oh, we won the war because Israel was so desperate that they had to get the United States to bail them out, to help them. And of course, without their help, which was futile, they did nothing to us anyway. We ended up winning this war, so congratulations to us, according to the Ayatollah Khamenei Jr. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like, I think Israel is the one who came out victorious because although they didn't get the regime change that they wanted, maybe they're still working towards that, but nonetheless, I digress. They still managed to, you know, even if it did require getting the United States involved, they bombed the nuclear facilities in Iran, which now they supposedly do not have anymore. The question now, I guess, remains is, will they start rebuilding their nuclear program just to maybe get it destroyed again? Or will they, you know, I guess the goal was to at least slow down their progress, which seems to have worked for now. So other than that, no further updates from the Middle East. That's what we'd like to hear, is peace. So yeah, not much else going on in that front. Because of this small dip from Bitcoin, of course, every other altcoin is also having its own little correction. We'll notice Ethereum is actually 2,400. Let's go discuss that right now, actually. Hardly down a single percent, so it's looking fine as well. Keep in mind, we do have liquidation zone up here as well. Yeah, kind of chilling out on this area. We have not necessarily flipped the super trend bullish once again for Ethereum. It kind of slowed down at a resistance of 2,517, where we have our first resistance from pivot levels. This Fibonacci, it's also supposed to determine resistances, but for very, very long-term movements, right? Which we kind of see has worked out in the past. But from here, like, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, some readjustments do have to be made. For example, this uptrend, if this is likely the bottom, this would be the uptrend that currently defines the move for what is going to be the alt seasons, right? Which it seems okay still, like it kind of makes sense for this. For alts, you really want to pay attention to what Ethereum does first, and then pay attention to the rest of altcoins. Me, right now, as much as I hate to admit it, yeah, I'm fully out of Bitcoin. I did not reach my 135,000 target. That could come back to bite me in the bum. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use the profits that I took, put it into altcoins, which, even at these prices, they are relatively cheap still, right? I'm going to wait for... Is this even a good dip? I don't know. I'll wait for another oversold opportunity to start buying back in, and then we shall take off, hopefully. We still got a couple months before, you know, Bitcoin is expected to reach its all-time high levels. Like new highs, I'm explaining, like levels where people have their targets at, like that 135,000 target that I was explaining, or mainly it's 120,000. I saw a lot of analysts saying recently. That seems to be the next leg up. And then that whole deal of 150, 180, 170,000, maybe 200,000, 220,000. I could be surprised, but I don't think that's going to be very likely this year anymore. I'm looking more toward best case scenario 180,000, right? My target still is 135,000. That's just for my own analysis that I've been doing. But other than that, yeah. I mean, you still got a chance for altcoins that can make even larger percent movement. And it's the reason why people do invest in altcoins, because they want to invest into something. They say, oh, Bitcoin's already made its movement, so I want to invest into something that, you know, still has a chance of giving me a large rate of return. And that's when technically alt season would hit. And I'm saying this is still a good time, because if we go look at Bitcoin dominance, for instance, we're very, very high with it. It's like practically, is this like very all-time high levels? I mean, yeah, literally is. Not all-time high, but like for... Look, I even have these numbers indicated right over here. 60% is an important level. 65.96% is what Bitcoin dominance is currently at. And the last time we saw these levels was January 2020. Alt season seemed to have started a little bit earlier than this. When Bitcoin dominance drops, this just measures the amount of money that's in Bitcoin versus the amount of money that's in altcoins. So 60% of the crypto people who are invested into crypto, all that money, 60% of it, 65.96 to be exact, is inside Bitcoin right now. Once Bitcoin makes its big move up and rises, people will start taking profits. That will be the cycle top for Bitcoin. Who knows if that's 135,000, 180,000, 220,000, we don't know. People will start taking profits. Bitcoin dominance will drop. That money, now they'll say, okay, well, what else hasn't bought? What's the next hidden gem is what people like to say. They'll start looking at the altcoins, right? And that's when alt season would technically happen, because, you know, people are selling off their Bitcoin by then. And we'll start buying altcoins, which that's going to make explosive daily growths for altcoins. That's what the alt season is. That's what it's called that. We've seen it in the past before. We've seen Bitcoin dominance drop to literally flip this whole thing around. 35% Bitcoin dominance. Is that math right? Let me do, yeah, 35. Let's just say right now it's what, 65% plus 35 is the other, makes up with 100%. Exactly that. So literally flip the script around. You'll get what you had in 2018. Almost the same thing happened in 2022. Really, 2022 must have been the end of the cycle, of course. Yeah, this is like the lowest point. That's when Bitcoin, throughout 2022 to 2023, people started getting scared of altcoins. A lot of altcoins died. And then, you know, you had people going back into Bitcoin once again, especially with the hype of the ETFs starting around March 2020-24. You're basically no longer in whatever was considered previously alt season, breaking through that barrier of 54%. And people have just been above that level ever since. We never crossed below this ever since, you know, 2024 March, right? Since this level. This is the level that most people would consider. Crossing this is when we have officially entered alt season. So if you're looking at this kind of projection, you're still very early to the game, and that's why I still believe a lot of altcoins are very good prices nonetheless. Does that mean just go all in? No, I don't think so. You should still DCA. Be cautious with your entry prices. These prices still, like, we've seen these prices literally just last year. You've seen how far these altcoins can go. They have been at higher prices. We've seen XRP at $3. We've seen Solana at almost $300. Ethereum we've seen at $4,000 not too long ago, a couple months ago. Sui we've seen at almost $5. Litecoin $140. Cardano $1.30 something. You're still early, bottom line. And when Bitcoin does, you know, if Bitcoin does break its current all-time high, 112K, goes to 120K, 135K, 150, 170, 180, these will follow. Ethereum first, that's what I'm looking at for now. Ethereum first. Breaks 3,000, that'll be a very good signal. You'll see a lot of altcoins also doing, you know, daily 5, 10, 15% gains, maybe even 20. And, you know, FOMO will kick in, retail will start joining. We're getting a lot of ETFs that could get approved. Staking could get approved for the ETFs on some altcoins. We've got some altcoins that will be using Bitcoin as their BTC Fi, is that what they call it? To, you know, we were seeing Polkadot and Cardano do this stuff. I'll try to pull up on let me see if I could find an article on it, actually. I think I've seen .ADA being talked about in this case, linking up with Bitcoin. That's not it. That's not it. Is it this? Yeah, it's literally this. Bitcoin treasury buys have sent company stocks flying, and now Cardano and Polkadot may also be stacking Bitcoin as their kind of like reserve assets. Some people are saying stuff against this. Some people are for this. You can check out the video, I guess, there from Coin Bureau. I haven't watched it, but I just saw this kind of news going on. So you got stuff like that going on. Altcoins are always improving their ecosystems. Ethereum has massively improved from where it was 5 years ago, and we're at the same price as we were 5 years ago. Is that an exaggeration? 4 years ago, 2021 June. Literally the exact same price as April 2021, May, June, July, August. Same price, and a much better ecosystem. Similar deal with other tokens like Solana. Sui has not had that much history. Litecoin, you could argue the same. Litecoin made a $300 all-time high, I'm pretty sure, back in 2021. There we go. 294. Yeah. Yep, so, you know, you're still early to the game. It's my message to you for today. If you're going to take away anything from this video, it's that you're still early. Don't worry. Now, in terms of Bitcoin invalidation at 102,800 for our super trend, that's where we would have our worst case scenario support, I guess, coinciding with this pivot level. Then 100K, of course, always psychological level. And then this seems to have worked out as a floor, 98,000 right over here. That's it for Bitcoin. For Ethereum, let's move on to Solana. It's currently at a support level at 138. Current price is $138.89, down 3.60% today. Slowing down at this first resistance, 149. Highest point that we reached was 148, 147.91 to be exact. And we got a good liquidation zone right over here, breaking above 153. That should, this should be an easy breakout once we do approach this resistance again. It's healthy for us to be down here, like I said, to kind of reaccumulate to get the next leg up. Once we do break this resistance, this is going to be easy breakout. Someone's going to have a big breakout right over here. I could see that. Breaking out of the downtrend, breaking out of a super trend, breaking out of this resistance, massive short squeeze, and could push us much higher. From here, it's looking at maybe 169, 170, although I think that might be a little too exaggerated. Who knows? Maybe not. RSI is at a relatively low level as well, 41. So it's got enough, momentum to rise. Possibly 23%. Stay on the lookout for that. If, and only if, the 125.91 was indeed the bottom for this. We are still looking at resistance with these, right? Yes, we are. Just want to make sure that's still current. Yep, so this is looking like the next major resistance, 170. Keep an eye out for that. Solana. Could happen soon. In terms of an uptrend for long term, I drew this one here for a reason. Just so that we could adjust it to here once the bottom was in, which it seems like, I don't think there's a war in the Middle East anymore. That's probably the bottom. We do need to break out of this downtrend though, for real. Like, it's got to happen. And when it does, it's going to be pretty glorious. And we'll confirm, bull market is absolutely back. For now, we're testing this area. Could take a while. Could not take a while. I think it's coming soon. We're also getting rate cuts soon, by the way. That's something I also wanted to talk about. And I'm going to ensure this does not escape me this time. I hope not, or else I'm going to look foolish. We're getting 3 rate cuts. It's back to a projection again, 3 rate cuts that could be happening. Next meeting that's happening July 30th, we're still expecting nothing to happen, 79% chance of that. But look at the upcoming ones. September, we're 86% chance we get a rate cut. October, we're getting a rate cut, 83% chance. And then December, 59.85, almost a 60% chance we're getting a rate cut. Those are pretty solid. That's 3 rate cuts. It's back on the table again. So that's a good thing. But the chances of the December one, it's almost like a 50-50. It's almost like a coin toss. It just seems like the rate cut just got pushed earlier to October. It was originally looking like we were going to get one in September, nothing in October, and then one in December. That was going to be 2 rate cuts. But now it's looking like 3 rate cuts. And if it doesn't come in December, doesn't matter. We're getting another one in January 2026. We're still expecting some more rate cuts, even for 2026, up to, this range, 300 to 325 basis points. That's likely to happen around June. As of right now, current market projections. This could change, of course, anytime. But the current projections is looking like this. From June until October, we're likely to stay around that zone. And then December 2026, after inflation has started kicking in again, then we can start seeing some rate hikes. There's actually no chance of us being at this lower range anymore. December 2026. So just keep an eye out for that rate hike by then. But by then, like I said, we do need these rate cuts to kick in. First for government debt rebalancing, and then, for markets effect to kick in, quantitative easing, etc. It's necessary to happen. Some inflation can be all right, I guess. All right, so that's what we get the money flowing, especially into crypto. So that should be pretty good. Even 26 is looking pretty bullish, maybe. XRP reaching this support, We slowed down at this resistance at 220, actually, surprisingly. We did not break this 225 to reach our 230. Big liquidation from shorts going on over here, so that could create a short squeeze. We could see a big pump rise over here, breaking 225 first, which we did not. And we're currently on our way down again, about to test this pivot support at, what is this, 206? Yeah, 206. I don't know, I've got a couple of supports over here. Seems to be a very massive one. Didn't mean to move that. This uptrend, I'll readjust it over here. What was this award date? June 22. I gotta remember this date because that's like a low point for a lot of tokens. So June 22 low point. is where you're going to likely have to readjust most of your uptrends to. This downtrend as well can be broken once we break the 225 to once again head us higher. From there, we're looking at around 250 maybe as our next resistance. Can this happen this week? Maybe. We're getting some economic data tomorrow, but I don't know if it'll bring exactly that much volatility towards the market. Today, though, this downfall is led by some fundamentals, especially concerning XRP. Has to do with a set case that we'll be looking into in one of the articles that I have prepared. So stay tuned for that. All right, looking good. 4% down. No, not really looking good. 209 is the current price. Hey, we're still above $2, which I guess is fine. Low point, we did reach 190 though. Really good buy, if you were able to. Oversold right over there. Could have bought that. Anyways, I didn't. I think I bought at $2 something. Low $2. So I do have some exposition into XRP. SUI did not break its resistance 285. We have another one at 290, just very short term. This one is for the super trend invalidation is what I'm referring to. So we didn't close the candle above that. We instead dropped currently at this little support level from our pivot at 262 is the current price. 258 is what we have from a Fibonacci for resistance purposes, so we shouldn't pay too much attention to it. This I'll readjust to 22nd of June drop. That's what we should be looking forward to. This is a very, very shallow looking uptrend. So I'm hoping that this one will hold on for longer. I'm pretty sure there is a longer term uptrend. Yes, there is. That could serve some relevancy if I can draw it correctly. Maybe not too much. I'll go to a daily chart actually. Just to ensure I got it exactly right. Yeah, it's looking alright. So even if we do drop, like, sure, this is probably the actual uptrend you should be paying attention to. From a low point in 4th of August to our low point in 7th of April. Almost coinciding with the low point of 22nd of June for SUI. SUI still, like I said, got a lot of potential. Did reach 535 as its all-time high. Very recent coin. You got about 106% chance before that reaches that one, that all-time high. Which is more than SUI, which is not more than Solana. Solana, I think, has a higher potential before reaching its all-time high. This all-time high from Solana was thanks to, of course, Trump token. Yeah, Solana has a 113 almost percent chance of room of increasement, however you'd say that, of room to grow before we reach our all-time high level once again. Is my microphone okay? Yeah, I think it is. Because I changed the volume settings for what I was, for recording, what I record reading books. But it seems it's fine, like right now. Alright, moving on. Well, I didn't mention 3% down today for SUI and 262 the price. Yeah, that's all. Currently met with this support. We can break out of this downtrend easy and head towards this liquidation. Breaking out of this resistance at 311 should be very simple once we do approach this zone. But to do that, 285 would have to be broken. 285 to 290 zone. Then we could break this $3. $3 is also psychological level, to keep that in mind. Not the 2 zeros, of course. So, a lot of resistance for SUI, but it can be broken, and when it does, it's going to be quite glorious. It could be a possible 30% rise before we meet our next resistance. Litecoin, it's hardly down today, 0.20%. Managed to stay actually right hovering around this area at resistance 185. At resistance $185 is what I mean. Just to not confuse it, didn't say 185. Current price is $84.55. Lowest point, I think I already had this adjusted, yes. At 76 was the low point of 22nd June. And yeah, I mean, it's held solidly. It has not dropped like the rest of the tokens. Litecoin just, you know, kind of doing its own thing. So, good for Litecoin. We need about a 3% rise before we reach the 87 resistance and then invalidate this downtrend. Which could be, it could be this downtrend or it could be this downtrend that we could be testing soon. Because this realistically only needs like 5 more days before we actually reach this one. I think Litecoin can break out of that sooner though. We could meet up with this resistance. I mean, yeah, resistance from a downtrend, which I don't think it's too relevant, right? It's less relevant than the rest. So, I mean, realistically, these two are the ones that truly matter, in my opinion. This one could easily be broken, so I wouldn't give it too much attention. It's looking, though, like a converge is at around $90. So, maybe break out to there, $7 before we slow down. I mean, sorry, 7% rise before we slow down at the $90 mark. So we got for Litecoin. Cardano down 1.69%, 0.55 cents dollars. Bears take control according to this. Cardano sees a sharp 4% drop as bears take control. Potential catalysts on the horizon. We'll see what AI generates for us, but we did meet this perfect support level right over here. If I can see what that level is, that would be great. I'm just gonna... Alright. 51 was that support level. We have our first resistance right over here at 61, we could call that. You'll notice super trend is kind of dropping right over here a little bit as the article mentions, not article, but AI likely pushing this downwards, right, with the short momentum that's currently happening. There is the altcoin season potential. Bitcoin recently reaching 110,000 before pulling back. Some analysts believe this could open the door for altcoin season potentially benefiting ADA. There's also Japan connection. Interesting development with ADA JPY trading pair showing explosive volume, suggesting that Japan might be becoming a key market for Cardano adoption. That is interesting. I didn't know that. Mixed market sentiment, of course, and treasury conversion strategy. This is also what I was talking about. Their plan to convert part of its $1.2 billion treasury into Bitcoin, which could impact Cardano's tokenomics and value proposition. They're doing the MicroStrategy tactic, right? So 55 key support, like I said, if it holds, we might see a bounce. I think that likely if we do drop, we will drop to here again, given Cardano's little weakness. But I think 55 would be very important. Or 55, they said. Oh, that's literally right now. Okay, well, don't know what you're talking about. I was looking at 51 mainly. Could be the case. We don't know for sure. We're looking here for bounces upwards. Okay, so now we should be looking at resistances, given that this was already our high. I'm just going to reverse this Fibonacci, which shouldn't be too different given the fact that they're literally at the same prices, almost. Like, we hit this low exactly April 7 and exactly June 22nd. And also right over here, 3 times February 2nd. So 51, or 50 at least, has not been able to be broken by everyone. So pretty solid for Cardano. I just did what okay, let me redo this, sorry. I meant to do it from here, because now we're looking for resistances, right? That's where your first resistance is, at 59.32. There we go. Now we're getting some numbers here. In terms of specific supports, like really we don't got much. I could draw like the world's tiniest Fibonacci right there. We're kind of slowing down at 55 is what they're saying is the support. But you're basically seeing one every 1 cent, right? 54, 52, 7, and then 50 ultimately, the last one. So you could technically say that's where the AI is getting its support level at 55, not fully able to be broken downwards. Hey, maybe we do bounce from over here is what they're saying, which would be ideal. But we do have to break out of 60. It's looking like 60, right? Oh, not even. Yeah, 59 then. These numbers are very tight nonetheless, if I'm trying to be precise with the price action for Cardano, so it's a little difficult to tell. Alright. Turning a little bit green now. Ethereum is already first in the way there. That's all we got for our altcoin analysis and Bitcoin. Wow, I spent half an hour on that, I'm sorry. Moving on then. Let's talk about economic data that we got today, and we will be getting some tomorrow. We got GDP data today, which came in mixed, right? We previously had 0.2%. We estimated a 0.2% drop, but it actually came in less. So the GDP is much to the Fed's expectation. But we're seeing the possibility of 3 rate cuts anyway. So we're not growing as much as expected. What's going to be more important than that, though, is the PCE price index. It's what the Fed likes to pay attention to the most in order to determine rate cuts, whether or not they will be coming. There were some other Feds speaking about rate cuts and the possibility, stuff like that. They were saying that we can maybe see one as early as July, but Jerome Powell himself likely disagrees. And of course, Trump takes the rage bait and goes off on him. Not really. Yeah, we've seen it in the past, but this time Trump is like actually trying to take action. Let me find exactly what I'm talking about here. He had a testimony, Fed Chair Powell, by the way, if you didn't see this. He said that the Fed is well positioned to wait and see on rate cuts. Tariffs are likely to push up inflation, weigh on economy. There's no immediate signal of interest rate cuts provided. The labor market conditions have remained solid. Inflation has eased but remains somewhat elevated, so he's not ready to cut the rates. And also this, by the way, I love how we cut 50 basis points right into the election last year, remember, July 31st, right when inflation was clearly significantly higher than what it currently is today. Why did he cut rates then and not now? It was probably just bad economy from Bidenomics, but it is what it is. And Trump says that he has begun interviewing candidates to replace Fed Chair Jerome Powell. He's got 3 to 4 names under consideration. Like I said, we know Powell's term will come to an end 2026. I forget the exact date. Was it March? When I've Googled this before. When does Jerome Powell term end? It's July, May 2026. So we got about a year till this guy can leave. But I don't think nobody's going to wait a year for rate cuts to come in. So, you know, he himself is going to have to announce the rate cuts sometime this year. We're just going to have to wait for it, is what it seems like. President Trump also saying, just quietly, by the way, that he has signed a trade deal with China.
We're having some great deals. We have one coming up, maybe with India, very big one, where we're going to open up India.
And maybe with India.
In the China deal, we're starting to open up China, things that never really could have happened. Well, we just signed.
So even with China as well, they just signed. Yesterday is what he says, like much to the surprise of everyone. Nobody heard about this news. And market's reaction has been like, okay, well, that was yesterday's news. We don't really care anymore. Or maybe it was already priced in. Because we kind of knew that they would resume trade talks once again. We had some U.S. officials go meet with Chinese officials once again. This was after the first Geneva trip. So that's basically already happened, and we might get another trade deal with India as well. That's kind of what we wanted to see anyway. We're hoping that these would improve the U.S. economy as well and not increase inflation as much. At least as much as Jerome Powell fears, because that's why he is reluctant to cut rates, because he says if tariffs are going to bring inflation, why should I cut rates? We'll see how tariffs play out. So the sooner that Trump gets these deals done with other countries, the better. And also, you know, the more companies come into the country, they will start being able to manufacture stuff in the United States. Things would be cheaper again. And more jobs, right, for Americans. So that's ultimately his goal there. There's also news that President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu have reportedly agreed to end the war in Gaza within 2 weeks. It's always been 2 weeks now. It's literally a meme, by the way. So, yeah, guess that's happening. Now, Trump has been going off on this lady right over here, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, who has been calling for the impeachment of President Trump, citing a pattern of dangerous and unconstitutional behavior, as well as serious concerns over his recent actions in office. And what specifically is she referring to? She's talking about almost starting a World War III by getting the United States involved in Iran-Israel war, right? Not a lot of people were agreeing with that, especially Democrats who oppose Republicans in the first place. So, of course, she was going to criticize that kind of thing. So Trump responded to all this with a whole essay, which we're going to read, calling her stupid AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the dumbest people in Congress, is now calling for my impeachment, despite the fact that the crooked and corrupt Democrats have already done that twice before, which is true. The reason for her rantings is all of the victories that the USA has had under the Trump administration. The Democrats aren't used to winning, and she can't stand for the concept of our country being successful again. Hey, she wanted attention and she got it, I guess, right? When we examine her test scores, we will find out that she is not qualified for office, but nevertheless far more qualified than Crockett, another crazy black lady, who is a seriously low IQ individual, is what he calls, or Ilhan Omar, also, by the way, calling for the impeachment of Trump, who does nothing but complain about the country, yet the failed country that she comes from doesn't have a government, is drenched in crime and poverty, and is rated one of the worst in the world. I think she's like African or Muslim or something, if it's even rated at all. How dare the mouse tell us how to run the United States of America? We're just now coming back from that radical left experiment with Sleepy Joe, Kamala, the auto pen in charge. What a disaster it was. AOC should be forced to take the cognitive test that I just completed at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of my physical, which he passed, by the way. As the doctor in charge said, President Trump aced it, meaning I got every answer right. Instead of her constant complaining, Alexandria should go back home to Queens, where I was also brought up, and straighten out her filthy, disgusting, crime-ridden streets in the districts she represents. I didn't know she represented Queens. That is disturbing. I have some family there, and man, it's not pretty to live there. My sorry to my family that lives there, but it's not that great, honestly. And which she never goes to anymore, by the way. Does she really? I want to Google that. AOC district. Will that give me the answer? U.S. Representative, U.S. New York's 14th Congressional District. What does that mean? What is the 14th Congressional District? District 14. Okay, Bronx and Queens. Yeah, it is that area. Okay, that's crazy. I didn't even know that. I thought she was going to be somewhere like California or something. Didn't know that. She better start worrying about her own primary before she thinks about beating our great Palestinian senator, crying Chuck... Wait, what? Beating our great Palestinian senator, crying Chuck Schumer, whose career is definitely on very thin ice. She and her Democrat friends have just hit the lowest poll numbers in congressional history, so go ahead and try impeaching me again. Make my day. Yeah, I mean, I guess. Very true. I also wanted to mention... What is she... Like, there was talks about likely Bernie Sanders and AOC to be running for the next, presidential candidacy. Like, Bernie Sanders president, AOC vice president, as for the Democrats. And people were actually on board with that. I mean, out of all the Democrats, really? Like, I don't want to give him too much tips anyway, but just from my 2 IQ knowledge, maybe that guy, Gavin Newsom, as crazy as it is, he just seems to be the most coherent one out of the rest. I don't know. The rest seem very crazy. They all seem very crazy. Don't get me wrong. But if they paid me to help them out, like, I would say, yeah, maybe get Gavin Newsom, which is crazy for me to say. And maybe Bernie Sanders, or maybe Elizabeth Warren. They're all unhinged and crazy nonetheless. Gosh, I really don't want to give too much political stances like that, but you kind of get what I mean, right? I really don't. There seems to be like no actual hope for the Democrat Party at this point. That's just my 2 cents on that. Here we have an update on the XRP case with the SEC. A U.S. judge has denied both Ripple and the SEC's motion to end the XRP case early, so the legal battle will continue. I feel like it's always going on now. And every time like there seems to be a win for XRP, you see a massive pump on the price action of XRP. It just spikes up just suddenly. So it's pretty hard to predict exactly when this kind of stuff happens. You can kind of see, when did the first case get won over here? It was like the first... I gotta zoom in a lot further. That's crazy. We were like hitting 60 cents. I think this was absolutely one of those days, right? 7th of August, 2024, they won like a case or something. It rose up to here and then quickly decayed back down as if nothing, right? But then this was Trump victory, of course. XRP just blasted off, right? And now we're hovering above these levels. And now you want to buy at $1.90? Are you crazy? Yeah, XRP is, I just feel like it's been in a perpetual downtrend for its whole life, given this SEC case. So here's more details on it. The Judge Torres denies Ripple and SEC's motion to amend final judgment, which blocked a fast-tracked $50 million settlement and keeping institutional XRP sales under legal constraint. That was the original plan. We just pay you $50 million. I can't speak today. So that was the original plan. XRP was going to pay a $50 million settlement, and that's it. The case was closed. I think it got appealed again. Nothing much else came of that, so it's kind of still in the air whether or not that's going to end. So we still got to wait, I guess. Polkadot. Speaking of Polkadot, by the way, we're also delaying the ETF for 21 shares spot Polkadot ETF. So the SEC is kind of, supposedly supposed to be a pro-crypto friendly people in charge now, since that guy Gary Gensler is now gone. But seems like we're still struggling to get these ETFs approved. They just keep on getting delayed. I'm pretty sure this is like the 5th time I've reported that this has been delayed. But yeah. I know the SUI ETF hits before DOT. That's true. Like, who is really asking for a Polkadot ETF? I feel like more people would be stoked for a SUI ETF. Based off of growth, specifically. If you're looking for, like, staking and rewards, Polkadot will be better. Based off of the annual yields I've seen them do in the past. But yeah. Maybe they're all just waiting for Genius Act. Could be. The Genius Act did get pushed over to the House. It got approved, right, by the Senate. It went up to the House. We're just waiting for that to get signed so that Trump can sign that into effect, I guess. It's going to be good for stablecoins, right? We could also bring the room in for CBDCs, which not a lot of people are a fan of. Anyway, Pult posted this saying, after significant studying and keeping with President Trump's vision to make the United States the crypto capital of the world, today I ordered the great Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to prepare their businesses to count cryptocurrency as an asset for mortgage. So now you could, mortgage homes, I guess, with crypto. Single family loans delivered to Fannie and Freddie McRae. So you can now use your BTC or ETH stack to flex for a mortgage. No need to dump your... This is in degen terms, by the way. No need to dump your bags. La 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 la. They got the green light to eye crypto as an asset. So degens with fat wallets might score a crib easier. Might buy a house easier. But hold up, crypto's wild price swings could spook lenders, and you gotta park your coins in a regulated exchange. No shady wallets. It's a W for access, but volatility, fraud, and sketchy valuation rules could rug pull the vibe. Still, with 55 million Americans hodling, this could pump the housing game or crash it if the market dumps. Stay woke, it's a gamble. Of course, Michael Saylor is congratulating this. Future generations will remember this as the moment Bitcoin entered the American dream. Of course, part of that is owning a home, having a family, having a job in America. And now you can do that with crypto, especially given the fact that, as the previous post said, 55 million Americans now have crypto, own crypto, and it's only going to get more adopted as times go on. Everybody I talk to, by the way, are always like, oh, you do crypto? That's cool. I want to get into the crypto stuff. And then I've got to give them a long explanation. Not that it's an inconvenience for me. Like, I'm happy to explain crypto to anyone, but it's just something that's happening more frequently now, and people want to get more educated on this stuff. So it's part of the reason why I do this, even though nobody watches, but it's fine. And Michael Saylor has also posted that Bitcoin has been recognized, not specifically Bitcoin, but crypto is what this says right over here. Consider cryptocurrency as an asset. It's been recognized as a reserve asset by the U.S. housing system, a defining moment for institutional Bitcoin adoption and collateral recognition, which is overall bullish. Great. Good stuff. Good partnership here as well, by the way. Pay attention to this. Chainlink is excited to announce that Chainlink and MasterCard have partnered to enable billions of cardholders to purchase crypto directly on chain. That's pretty cool. Chainlink verifies and synchronizes key transaction details to enable MasterCard holders to access crypto directly on chain. This marks a major step forward in the mainstream adoption of Web3. Chainlink and MasterCard power the new Swapper Finance platform, with Zero Hash X providing the on-chain service and access to liquidity needed to convert fiat into crypto with seamless smart contract execution, alongside Shift4 and XSwap Link with liquidity sourced from Uniswap. Pretty cool. Uniswap trusted with Ethereum, etc., combining MasterCard's global payments technology and Chainlink's industry standard infrastructure creates a secure user experience for billions. Here's some more information. The Chainlink powered Swapper Finance app is live today, enabling cardholders to purchase crypto directly on chain from decentralized exchanges. That would include Uniswap. Swapper Finance leverages XSwap, the leading decentralized exchange built out of the Chainlink ecosystem. So that's their DEX, I guess. XSwap uses Chainlink standard for data and interoperability. Pretty cool. So here's your MasterCard. You process that with Chainlink. Where's step 1 here? Okay, so somebody has a user credit card or debit card. You download the Swapper platform. You can then, what is this, buy or Chainlink, use Chainlink or card processing. They are connected to each other. It gets sent to the backend platform to decentralized exchange. You buy whatever tokens you have, and you can give it to either yourself or another user, I'm assuming. I hope I'm reading that flow chart right. Raj Damodharan says, is the executive vice president. I'm sorry for disrespecting your name. There's no doubt about it. People want to be able to easily connect to the digital assets ecosystem and vice versa. Yeah, so it is interchangeable. And coming together with Chainlink, we're unlocking a secure and innovative way to revolutionize on-chain commerce and drive the broader adoption of crypto assets. Together, MasterCard and Chainlink are driving a new wave of user-centric solutions that bridge the gap between crypto-native technology and real-world usability. It's just overall good. On-chain and in-demand. Billions on-chain, by the way. That's also true. Andrew Tate brings up a good point. Price of Chainlink has remained the same, although based off of this news, we did get a pump on Chainlink. And I had a good snipe on Chainlink as well. I bought exactly right over here, believe it or not. Numbers, decimals, exactly there is what I purchased. We had this partnership announcement. I think it was from... could have been from just Bitcoin's general pump, but still, we got a 25% pump on Chainlink, which was more than most altcoins, to say the least, right? From low point to high point, even if I compare it to something as volatile as SUI, it's about the same. 26%, 26%. Bitcoin, though, had, I'm assuming it's up to here, 8% pump. Not as significant, right? Ethereum from here to maybe here, 17% pump. Yeah, so the altcoins mainly did have their good pump, but Chainlink had one of the higher pumps, is what I remember from that day once that was announced. This is a couple days ago, by the way. June 24, 2 days ago. There's one little bad news still, is Barclays Bank from England. Of course, Europe is always very anti-crypto, seems like. They banned their customers from using their credit cards for any cryptocurrency transactions from June 27 onwards. Which is like, why? But whatever. I don't know why they're doing that. Is Barclays Bank, do they have MasterCard? Probably not. Barclays Bank cards, credit cards? Is it a Visa or MasterCard, or what kind of card is that? Accept. Where's my cookies? I accepted cookies. I'm not checking from eligible. What kind of card is it? It's a Visa card. Okay, so it doesn't impact the MasterCard thing that we were talking about. They're on Visa, so whatever. We don't care about them. Coinbase, let's talk a bit about that, and also the stock market, if I can remember it. Matter of fact, I'll first talk about the stock market, just in case I forget. We did hit high levels, all-time high. S&P 500, 611. And this is the ETF. I should probably look up the actual S&P 500, US 500. Reached this high point, $6,154.10. That is indeed a new all-time high for the S&P 500. Don't ask me why I drew this. I was probably just testing something. You know what else hit an all-time high? US 200. The US 100, NASDAQ. Yeah. I mixed it up, my bad. US 100 is NASDAQ. Hitting a high of $22,493 today. Pretty cool. And it has been for a while. Has the Russell also been hitting US 2000? No, it has not. What about Dow Jones? Probably not. I'm assuming because United Health is still, you know, pushing the price really far down. United Health still has not fully recovered. It's slightly recovered, but like barely anything. These are actual real purchases, by the way, so don't copy what I did. I am suffering, and I forgot to report one more purchase, and I have another trigger order lower, just in case, if you do want an update on my stock portfolio. There you go. Yeah, so those two have been hitting all-time highs. Pretty sure like other stocks in Europe as us also, indices, not stocks, have also been hitting all-time high levels, but Coinbase is another one that has been hitting very high levels. Not all-time highs because it did reach like 400 plus in the past, but it's still relatively high compared to previous prices, right? Previous times. How do I speak English? Coinbase to launch perpetual style futures on July 21st. That is 1 month from now. Pretty sure that already existed, right? If I look at my Coinbase app, like for where though? That's kind of what I want to know. I do want Grok to explain this a little further. Because like I do see that they have perpetual like leverage trading on Coinbase, but if you're in a restricted, not necessarily restricted region, but like a region where that's not supported, you won't be able to trade with leverage on Coinbase. You can trade with leverage on Coinbase. That is a thing. But here it is. Reuters report said that they offered CFTC compliant trading, marking a significant expansion into regulated derivatives. That's the issue that I have, especially in Canada. You're not really allowed to trade with leverage, so you got to bypass that kind of thing. With BingX, I am allowed to because I found a way to bypass. Don't tell the feds. It's amid a 4.32 trillion crypto market within a 1.5. Okay. Perpetual futures lacking expiry date use a funding rate to align prices with spot markets. That's true. It's a mechanism supported by over $100 billion daily trading volume in 2022 per Investopedia, potentially increasing volatility and speculative activity in Coinbase's ecosystem. Mixed reactions on X. There's bullish memes to bearish warnings. That's funny how they describe that. Reflecting historical crypto market skepticism as seen in past launches like Bitcoin futures in 2017, which triggered a 30% price drop within weeks, suggesting potential short-term instability. Because that is true. Right now with Coinbase, I do have an account on it. You can only buy on the spot market. At least that's what I can do in Canada. I can only just buy or sell crypto, like, you know, purchase a token for its current price. No leverage, no none of that stuff. The tokens I purchase are mine, technically. Well, not your keys, not your crypto, but, you know, I could withdraw those tokens to an external wallet or even to a different exchange if I wanted to. That's kind of the way how I've been on-ramping, off-ramping. Because from there you can send money from your bank directly and send it to your bank. So that's one way to do it. And when I go to the leverage trading set, can I test it right now, actually? I think I can. I have a Coinbase platform open here. Yeah, it's literally this, literally this. I have nothing here, by the way, so I'm not concerned to show anything. But yeah, you got something like this. This is for the spot market. If I go to derivatives, which that's literally what it says here. Well, perpetual style futures. I don't know what specifically they're referring to. But if I try to buy this, I can't do it. It's a view-only market. Perpetual futures is only available in a view-only experience. Trading is unavailable in your location is what it ultimately says. So the answer is no. I can't do anything with leverage trading because of my location, which is racist, but it's whatever. So specifically about this, I'm not sure what to think of it. In terms of the bearish sentiment, It's the fact that with perpetual futures, you can now short the market. So not only can you sell, like, you have to buy something in order to sell it, but in the futures market, perpetual futures, you can now like just short the market and make the price go down before buying back, right? Which that's what it says in this Grok analysis back in 2017 for Bitcoin. It even had a 30% drop once that was introduced because everybody just decided to short Bitcoin for whatever reason. So stuff like that. But I think that's just short-term volatility. Bitcoin always goes up. Many people advise actually against shorting Bitcoin because of the fact that Bitcoin is a guarantee to go up forever, whether you like it or not. So yeah, not a guarantee, but practically a guarantee. I don't want to make you sell your house and buy Bitcoin. I mean, you should. No, you shouldn't. No, not financial advice. Read what it says at the bottom. It's risky. You can lose all your money. Anyway, Coinbase. Their stock jumped additional 3.6% today, hitting its highest level since going public in 2021. Hey, maybe this is all-time high. I could be wrong. Go to Coinbase. So that's where we are right now. We reached a high of 382. Current price closed 375. It broke through all my levels of fib extensions. Honestly, like I'm only looking at 451. Maybe if I go here, I see some pivot level at. I have to hide a RSI at maybe 396 for potential resistance, and then 439. But I think that's already too close to this. Maybe we just see more explosive growth. An 18% pump on Coinbase can absolutely do that. So we shall see. Turn this back on. Let me go as far back over here. Yeah, so we're already going higher than October 2021, November 2021, sorry. And also higher, our highest point was 429 when Coinbase IPO'd, when it first came out, right over here. And then it was just dropping and dropping ever since then. It dropped to a low of 31, imagine that, at its very, very lowest point, the Coinbase exchange. This was, all, of course, all due to fears with FTX. Man, FTX really messed up Coinbase, right? And nobody trusted any exchanges at this time, 2022. So it took a while for Coinbase to rebuild, regain its trust, and it had its good highs last year, 2024. This year, it's had its good old lows at 142, and ultimately we've overcome that, which it's great to see. Congratulations, I guess, for Coinbase hitting very high levels once again. Kathy Wood from ARK Invest sold, that is a lot of shares, 33,363 shares of Coinbase today. She's usually wrong, so maybe this is not indeed the top, but it's likely a reason, of course, why there's not a continuation in the price movement upwards. That is a lot of shares, and a lot of people, myself included, are taking some profits around here. Some, not all. I still have these positions open, and I'll likely sell around over here. If we ever do reach that. It could be the death of me, who knows. But let me just do the math here. That is 363 times 375.07. Who knows how much she bought? That's the current price, by the way. That's $12 million that she got back. How much did she put in? I mean, best case scenario, what she could have put in if she bought at 142, 4 million minus that difference, whatever it was, 12 million. All right, thanks, computer. 4 million minus 12 million, that's 6 million, 8 million. Yeah, 8 million. 12 minus 4. 8. Okay, 12 minus 4. And when I hit enter, it opens this history thing again for some reason. Yeah, 8 million profit, potentially, right? Depending on where she bought. I'm just estimating roughly. Which is good for her, I guess. But what are you doing with the ETFs? ARK Invest, by the way, is the company that she has. She is inflowing Bitcoin. Huge outflow over here, though. 191 million on June 17. What did I say with Coinbase? 12 million? Yeah, that's pretty insignificant compared to the numbers that are inflowing into Bitcoin's ETFs. What about Ethereum? They also have Ethereum ETF, don't they? No, they don't. Okay, I lied. At least it's not shown here. Maybe they do. I'm too lazy to Google the rest of that. All right, that's all we got for this. 1 hour stream. There you go. I'm going to have to end it here, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like and subscribe. I will see you tomorrow. Yeah. And yeah, hope you have a good night. All right. Take care. Bye.